Yesterday, we started talking about overlapping triangles, okay? What that means by overlapping is overlapping means they're sitting on top of each other, so they have common sides or common angles, okay? That's the main idea for today is understanding what triangles we're looking at and where they're connected at, okay? So focusing on common sides and common angles, I'm going to call them shared sides and shared angles, okay? Looking at this one right here, the common side example, it is very important to know what triangles they're talking about because do you see multiple different triangles in that picture? Yeah. Yes? Okay, so it's very important to read this statement so that you know. If you like using pens and highlighting things, you can use those so you can see what triangles you're looking at. Okay, I'm okay if you pull those out and use those. On here, it says ADE. So we're looking at this triangle right here. ADE. This triangle versus triangle CED. We're looking at those two triangles. Okay, so they are connected by a common side. Does everyone see the common side? That common side is ED. Okay, so do you agree I can put a congruence marking there? Okay, the reason I can call those two congruent is because if I separated those triangles, they were no longer overlapping, I would know that ED is congruent to itself. So the common side would be ED. Or you can call it DE. Okay. Similar with common angles. Again, it's important to know what triangles you're looking at. So we're looking at these two right here. What is in common? What do they share? They share a common angle at M, so I can say that M is going to be congruent to itself. So the common angle would be angle M. Overlapping triangles are always going to have a common side or a common angle. Okay? What I want you to do, look at example 1, 2, and 3. I want you to go through and mark the common side and the common angle, and then write what that common side or angle is on 1, 2, and 3. All right. Again, it's important to know what triangles you're looking at. So we're looking at DGH compared to FJH. What do they have in common? Angle H, so I can mark that angle to be congruent. So angle H is what they share. The second example, this triangle is shared or overlapped with this triangle. What do those two triangles share?
Side VZ.
VZ, yep, so I can say that side is congruent to itself, so I can say VZ is my shared side, or ZV. And number 3, we're looking at this triangle compared to this triangle. What do they share? AC. Yep, good. What I want you to do on 4, 5, and 6 is I want you to do the same thing we just did, but you just have to mark it this time. You don't have to write it down. I want you to go mark the shared side, the shared angle on 4, 5, and 6. All right, on 4, what do those two triangles share? Everyone agree with DE? Okay, what does number 5 share? So we want to focus on these two big triangles right here. What do they share? Angle R. What does 6 share? JN. Yep. Okay. Now what I want you to do is go back through all 3 of those, and I want you to match one of those 5 to those overlapping triangles. Okay? So let's look at number 4 together. If I'm just looking at this triangle right here, what congruent statement out of side, 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 angle, 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 side, and HL can I put with this? Side, angle, side. So these two overlapping triangles are congruent by side, angle, side. You go do the same thing on 5 and 6. I'll outline the triangles that we're looking at. All right, what congruent statement satisfies number 5? Angle, side, angle. And what satisfies number 6? HL. Yep, what was the dead giveaway for HL? The right angle. Yep. go ahead and notes to this side, okay? This side is when we're getting into proofs, okay? I have them outlined here for you. Number 7 is in a webbed format, okay? Number 8 is in table format. We are going to focus more on number 8, okay? This is the format that we're going to use, okay? But let's look at number 7 here quick. Proofs always start with a given statement, and then they give you what they want you to prove, okay? Looking through here, since they have it mapped out for us, given here, it says KF is congruent to HG. They already have it marked, but what you would normally do is you would go mark that statement that they gave you. Okay? And they also gave us KG is congruent to HF. So I would go mark that also. Why did I put 2 lines instead of 1? Because it's your second congruent statement. Yep. And then in the end, it wants us to prove that the 2 triangles are congruent to each other. So, walking through this here real quick, where's this statement from? This one right here.
KF is congruent to H.
Right. How do we know that? Because it's given to us. So our reasoning for that is given. Everything you put down is going to have a reasoning to it. Okay? So we know this because it was given to us. What about this statement right here? How do we know that's true? It was given to us. So same thing. This is given. Okay? Now we get to here. How do we know FG is congruent to FG? Because it's shared, right? So we can mark that as true. It's shared. And our reasoning is it is a shared side. So we can say those 2 lines, since they're the same, are congruent because it's a shared side. Okay? And now our final proof that we want to prove is why are the 2 triangles congruent to each other? Side, side, side. Yep, when you prove 2 triangles to be congruent to each other, you are going to use one of those 5 statements. Okay? And then, did we prove what we wanted to prove?
Yes.
Yes. Done. Okay? I always like to end my proofs with a little check mark because I know I'm done. Okay? Let's look at number 8. Okay, this is in table format. This is what we're going to be using the most. Okay? It filled it in for us. Given here, I want to talk about why they have 3 letters because we're used to them saying angle U is congruent to angle Y, right? That's what we're used to. Does anyone know why they gave us 3 letters? Because right now, if I saw U and Y, I would say maybe this angle is congruent to this angle. But are those the angles they're talking about? No, they're talking about the whole thing. So they want VUY. They want that whole angle right there. So we want this angle to be congruent to this angle. That's why they gave us 3 letters. So they know we're talking about the whole thing. Okay? So right here, what is my explanation for this? It's given, right? So the reasoning for that is that it is given to us. UV is congruent to YX. Why do I know that? It's given. The next statement they give us is that UY is congruent to UY. Shared side, yep. And then they give us our proof statement. Why are those 2 triangles congruent to each other? Side, angle, side. And then check, I'm done. Do you see a pattern between 7 and 8? What do we always start with?
Given.
What we're given. What do we look at next?
Shared.
What's shared, and then what do we look at next?
Actual proof.
The actual proof, what we're proving with our triangle congruent statements. Okay, it will follow that same method every single time. Okay, what I want you to look at on number 9, what are we trying to prove this time?
How triangle ACF is congruent to AEB, but wait, and then it's also congruent to angle AB.
Right. This time we're looking at angles, but we're normally used to looking at triangles. Does everyone see that? Okay. So let's keep this in mind. We're not trying to prove the triangles are congruent. We're trying to prove that the angles are congruent to each other. Okay. So they gave us angle C is congruent to angle E. How do we know that?
Not given.
Given. Yep. I'm going to jump down to here real quick. This bottom one. How do we know AB is congruent to AF? Given. What is that middle statement that they gave us? What angle? Right. How do we know this is congruent to itself? It's a shared angle. Yep, so that's our explanation. Okay. So, how do we know the two triangles are congruent to each other? Again, if it helps, outline it. This triangle right here.
Angle, side angle.
There you go. Yep. Angle, side angle. Are we done? No, right? We want to prove that these two angles are congruent to each other. Well, what does it mean if this satisfies? That means everything is congruent, right? So our example for this, since it's a part of those two triangles, is corresponding parts. Okay, yesterday we talked about corresponding parts. That means that they are the same part on two congruent triangles. So we know that those would have to be congruent to each other. Okay, so if you already have one of the triangle congruent statements approved or telling you that it is congruent, okay, you can use corresponding parts to say that an angle is congruent to another angle or a side is congruent to another side. All right, I want to look at this number one here. Okay, what do you notice about this compared to your notes that we just did? It doesn't have it like filled out, right? Okay. So I'm telling you right now there are going to be 4 steps. And yes, always label how many number of steps that you have. Okay? What should be the first statements we write down? The given, right? How many given statements do we have? 2. Yep. So our first one is BE is congruent to DC. And how do I know that? The reasoning is given. Yep. And then our other, I'm going to pause just for a second. When you write a given statement down, what else should you do in the picture?
Oh, mark it.
Mark it. Yep. Mark what your given statements are. Okay. Now move to your next one. Angle DCE is congruent to angle BEC. How do I know that? Given. What do I need to do now that I wrote it down?
Mark it.
Mark it. Yep. So this whole angle is congruent to that angle. Do we have any more given statements? Nope. What do we look for after given statements?
Shared.
What's shared between them? Yep. What do the two triangles here share? EC. How should I label that?
Like the angle or side. EC.
Right. Good. EC is congruent to EC. Is there another way I could write that?
CE is
I could do CE is congruent to CE. Yep. And then our reasoning for that is shared what? Shared side. How do I mark that in my picture?
with the congruent symbol.
How many?
2.
Yep. 2 congruent lines. And then what is going to be our step 4? What's going to be our statement?
How is congruent to how it is.
Yep. Triangle BEC is congruent to triangle DCE. And what is our reasoning? Side angle side. Check just to make sure. Did we prove what we originally wanted to prove?
Yes.
Yes. Done. So you always want to make sure your last statement matches what you wanted to prove. Try number 2 on your own. We got 4 steps. All right. So starting the proof, what do we always start with?
You're giving
Given statements. Yep. So my first one, I have BF is congruent to DF. The reasoning is always going to be what? Given. Yep. That's all you got to put. What do I do when I put that in the table?
you gotta mark it down.
Mark it on the picture so you can see it. Yep. BF is congruent to DF. And then it tells us angle B is congruent to angle D. Again, the reasoning for that is given. And then mark it in your picture. What always comes after given statements?
Shared side.
Shared side or shared angle. What do we have this time? We have a shared angle at F. So how do I write that? Angle F is congruent to itself. Angle F by reasoning, shared angle. So then mark it. Do I need one line or two? Two. Again, if it helps just to look at one triangle, highlight it or trace it. What's my last statement always going to be?
The same as the proof.
What you want to prove, right? So I need to take this statement, triangle BFC is congruent to triangle DFE. And then what is my reasoning? Angle, side, angle. And again, how do you know you're done with the proof?
If it's the exact same as.
If your last statement is proven and it's your last statement that you wrote down. Okay, these two should match. Okay, go ahead and try number 3. Five statements. All right, what do we start with? Given statements. Yep, so BF is congruent to DF. And our reasoning is given. So BF is congruent to DF. Other one was CF is congruent to EF by given. So CF is congruent to EF. What is our statement going to be after the givens? Something that's shared, right? What's shared? Angle F. Okay, so angle F is congruent to angle F. Is that a shared angle or side? Shared angle. Okay, I know it got a little confusing here. Outline the triangles that you're looking at. Okay, outline it. What should my fourth statement be?
The same as the one above. So
Right.
Triangle BFC is congruent to triangle DFE.
BFC is congruent to triangle DFE. Okay, so after we have what's shared, we can say the two triangles are congruent. Where are we going to get our reasoning from? It is going to be side angle side. Okay, remember this reasoning, every time, whenever you state two triangles are congruent to each other, you're going to use one of our 5 congruent statements. Okay? Are we done here? No, why not? Right, we want to prove this time. So angle D is congruent to angle B. What is our reasoning? Yep, because remember, whenever we satisfy this, what do we know about the rest of the triangle? Everything else is congruent. So we can assume that angle D and angle B are congruent to each other because they are corresponding parts. Does anybody have any questions over understanding the corresponding parts?